Hello, my name is Salam Abuchi and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I want to share with you very simple and practical steps that can help you to get out of debt. Very simple, down to earth, practical tips that can help you to get out of debt. Before we dive into the diagnosis, have you ever gotten to that point where you have to stop picking certain calls because the person calling or those calling are people that you are owing? Have you been having sleepless nights? Because at the end of the month, you need more to offset your debt or to settle your debt than how much is actually coming in. Have you also gotten to that point where you have to stop using certain routes in your neighborhood, or you have to stop driving through certain places because there's someone there that you are owing? What got you into this position in the first place? How did you really get into this particular problem? How did it all started? Is it because you borrowed some money to put up a building project, something you want to stay in with your family? Is it because you lost a relative, maybe your mom or your dad, and you needed money to support the funeral? Is it because of the responsibilities at home? Maybe you're a single mother, a single father, and the burden on you, the amount that is coming in at the end of every month is not able to pay how much you need to pay out there. What is really the cause of your problem? Or do you have to borrow money to make sure that your kids are able to get very good and quality education? Or is it because the government is not just paying you well, or your employer is not paying you well? Maybe your salary is nothing to write home about. Are this really your problem? If you go to the hospital, until the doctor is able to diagnose you well, until proper diagnosis is done, there's no way you are going to have any lasting solution to your ailment. So let's do proper diagnosis. Let's examine the reasons, whether they are very tangible enough. If you have to borrow money to put up an apartment, are you going to rent that apartment so that it generates more income, or you are going to live in it? For how long have you been borrowing money to put up that apartment, and have you been able to finish it? And now that you've been able to finish the apartment, how much are you spending now paying your electricity bills, your utility bills? How much are you spending on maintenance, living in your own apartment now? And are you getting any other source of income to be able to deal with most of these problems? Your kids are attending very expensive private schools. Do you have the money to make sure they go? It's good to have quality education, and it's good to take your kids to very good schools. But do you have money? Do you have to borrow to be able to pay their fees? Is it really necessary for you to be able to borrow money to make sure that your kids attend expensive school, so that at the end of every month you are struggling? Is it also necessary that you lost a relative and you have to get a brass band to come and play at the funeral so that people will say this funeral was really nice? Is it really necessary that you have to organize a buffet for people to come and eat, when at the end of the day they will not even give you anything in support? Is it really necessary? Who are you trying to impress? Who are you trying to please? Whatever you don't have the capacity to do, make sure you don't do. So if these are the problems or the reasons why you are in debt, it simply means you lack financial understanding. It simply means that you don't have good understanding of financial principles. This is why the Bible says that for the lack of knowledge, my people do what? They perish. For the lack of knowledge, my people perish. They don't perish not because they don't have strength. They don't perish not because they are not working, but simply because they lack knowledge of financial principles. That is why you are in financial debt. You are in debt today because you did what you shouldn't have done. So now that you've put yourself into this mess, how then do you come out of it? How then do you come out of these woes? This is where you need this notebook and a pen, because I'm going to help you with practical, simple, down-to-earth step that is going to help you to get out of debt. Point number 1, how much is the size of your debt? You claim you are owing Kofi, you are owing Amal, you are owing this bank, you are owing this financial institution. When you put all the total together, what is the size of your debt? If you don't know the size of your problem, there's no way you can solve it. You need to know the size of your problem. You need to know how much you are owing in all, in totality. How much is the size of your debt? This is where I'm going to introduce you to 2 techniques. We have the snowball technique and we have the avalanche technique. The snowball technique is where, after listing all the amounts that you are owing, you begin to rearrange them from the lowest to the highest, from the lowest debt to the highest debt, so that you take off the first loan with the smallest interest or the lowest loan first. Once you are done, you move on to the next until you move to the high, until you pay the highest debt. That's the snowball technique. The avalanche technique is where you list your debts from the highest, or the loan with the highest amount or highest interest rate, to the lowest. So you can either employ the technique of the snowball or the technique of the avalanche, where you pay your loan starting with the smallest first, or you pay your loan starting with the highest first. Now that you know how much you are going to loan you have to decide how much you want to pay at the end of every month. Let's assume that after putting all your loan together, you realize that I'm owing 10,000 Ghana cedis, or I'm owing 100,000 Ghana cedis, or I'm owing, let's say, 50,000 Ghana cedis. How much do you want to pay out of that total amount every month? This is where you need to bargain and talk to some of the people that you are owing, that I'm owing you this amount. I may not be able to pay this amount, but every month, this is how much I think I'll be able to pay. Because now you know the size of your problem. But even before that, do you know your income and expenditure? This takes me to point number 2. You need to know your income and your expenditure. When I talk about your income, I'm not talking of your gross salary. I'm talking about your take-home, your net salary. Because out of that gross salary, there are so many tax deductions, there are so many loan deductions, there are so many union deductions, there are so many other deductions. So what is your net salary? You could see somebody who is being paid about 3,000 Ghana cedis, 4,000 Ghana cedis, 5,000 Ghana cedis, and that person's net salary is around 800 cedis or 1,000 cedis, some even 500 cedis. And yet every month, the amount that you need to offset loans is about 55,000 Ghana cedis. Yes, your take home is 800 cedis or 1,000 cedis. So what does that tell you? That tells you that there are 2 things that you need to do. It's either you cut down your costs, or you look for multiple streams of income, other sources of income. You need to generate other sources of income. How are you going to generate other sources of income? You have a talent, you have a gift, you have a skill. If you are working for a company, you can ask for extra time so that you be able to work for extra hours and make more money. If you can create a side hustle so that after you've closed from your work, you jump into it, that is great. But you need more sources of income. You need extra source of income. Because if you have to pay off 5,000 at the end of every month, yet your take home is around 800 or 1,000 cedis, there's going to be a lot of pressure on you at the end of that month. You also need to live within your means. You need to cut down your expenditure. If you used to buy food outside to eat with your family, this time around, you need to learn how to cook. And learn to cook food that is within your means. Some people, even if they have to cook, they cook beyond their means. You also need to learn how to buy in bulk, because sometimes buying in bulk saves you more money than buying or in pieces. So learn to buy things, foodstuffs, groceries in bulk. Learn to live within your means. If you are in debt, yet you have 2 cars, you need to sell one. If you're in debt and you have 2 refrigerators, I don't think you really need all of them. Look around you. Do away with things that are not really necessary. So now you know that the total size of your debt. You also know that this is my income, this is my expenditure, this is how much I need to pay. This is the time to move to the third step, which is you need to live on a strict budget. You need to draw a budget. A lot of us are into impulse buying. We buy things because we saw the adverts, or we were walking through a certain boutique or somewhere, and then we saw something, it's appealed to our eyes, and so we decide to buy them. You must become financially disciplined and live on a strict budget. You must know the difference between your needs and your wants. If it is not absolutely necessary, I don't think you have to buy into it. If it is not absolutely necessary, if it's not going to cause your death, I don't think you really need it. I am not saying that you shouldn't enjoy life. I'm not saying that don't be entertained. I'm not saying that don't live a happy lifestyle. But I think we want to solve a problem. So if you have gotten yourself into this problem, then these are the steps that you need to take to be able to get yourself out of this problem. So learn to live on a strict budget. And whilst creating a budget, make sure that you allocate some amount of money for your recreation and your entertainment, because those things are also necessary in this life. Your recreation, your entertainment, you need money for those things. They are very, very necessary. So live on a budget. Know that at the end of every month, this amount of money I'm using for utility, this amount of money I'm using on food, this amount of money I'm using on toiletries, this amount of money I'm using on maybe school and the school fees or whatever. Just know how much you spend at the end of every month and begin to list them. If at first the kids used to go to school, each of them go to school with 10 cedis, this time around, you must talk to them, sit down with them at home and let them know that, things are not going well financially, so we want to re-strategize. But once it is done, you go back to the amount that you used to take. So from now, instead of 10 cedis, each of you is taking 5 cedis. And those who are taking 5 cedis will now take 2 cedis. So talk to your kids. Talk to those who are concerned. Let your husband know, let your wife know that this is what is happening. This is the problem we want to solve. So for now, this is what we are going to do. If those days you used to cook with, let's say, a carton, if at the end of the month you spend 1 carton of meat to prepare your meals, maybe you have to go for a half carton. If certain rooms always have light, you must learn how to control your expenditure. You must put off those lights. If you have multiple refrigerators and all those things that are consuming electricity, you must begin to off them. You can't continue living the same life you were living when you got yourself into debt. Albert Einstein said that insanity is trying to do the same thing that you did that got into trouble. Using the same mindset that got into trouble to solve the same problem. You can't use that same mind that you had to solve the problem. So you need to change your ways, you need to change your condition. Another thing that you need to do is to be able to control your appetite. Control your appetite. For most of us men, it is womanizing, it is alcohol, it is gambling, it is drugs. These are the things that really take money out of our pockets. Some men too are just fascinated with gadgets or electronics. So they tend to buy every electronic gadget in their homes, yet they are in debt. Some men too are fascinated with automobile, with cars, with motorbikes. So every new thing they want to buy. You need to control your appetite. For most of the ladies, it's the Brazilian hair, the bone straight hair, it's the bags, the designer bags, the clothes, the dresses, the shoes. Every day you're into impulse buying. Most of us get into debt because of impulse buying, financial indiscipline. You have all these clothes in your bag, in your wardrobe, yet you want to buy more. You have all these assets, yet you want to buy more. is as a result of financial indiscipline. When the time comes and your income is more than your expenditure, you can do bigger things. If you are watching me right now and how much you make at the end of every month is far, far beyond how much you spend, you can get anything you want. But if you are earning, your take home is around 800 cedis or 1,000 cedis, yet you have to offset a debt of about 5,000 every month, or a total debt size of about 50,000 or 100,000 Ghana cedis, then it means that you are financially indisciplined or you are living beyond your means. So you need to cut down. One of the greatest things that you also need to do to be able to get out of debt is to always save for the rainy day. You must save and invest. You should have an emergency fund. An emergency fund that should anything happen to you, like the COVID happened, and let's say you don't have to work for 6 months, you have money there that can help you. So while drawing your budget, create a space for emergency funds. Create a space for emergency fund, because you need to save for the rainy day. No matter how sunny it is right now, it's surely going to rain. It will surely rain. Even the Bible says that for everything there is a season. So good days don't always last, and bad days don't always last. Life is a rhythm. It goes up and it comes down. So you should know that as long as the sun is shining and things are going well today, an unforeseen occurrence can come, a problem can hit you from any angle, anytime. So always save for a rainy day. Have an account for emergencies, that should anything happen, you'll be able to fall on that account to be able to solve your problems. So have an emergency fund. So when you are able to apply these simple tricks, these simple principles, you know the total size of how much you are owing. You are able to know your income and expenditure. You are able to cut down your expenses. You are able to develop extra sources of income. You are able to control your appetite. And you also save for a rainy day. I can assure you that if you follow these principles, there's no way you are going to get into debt. And once you have finished solving all your problem or paying off your debt, learn to live on a strict budget. Do things that are in your capacity to do. Don't please anybody. Don't impress anybody. People can drive 1,000 miles to bury you, but they will never cross a street to help you. I repeat, people will drive 1,000 miles to bury you, but they will never cross a street to help you. This life is 100% your responsibility. No one is going to save you, and no one is going to help you. When you have it, and people are clapping for you, and people are cheering you on, and people are around you trying to enjoy with you, just know that when you get into the hard times, nobody's coming to save you. You are going to save yourself. So live life the way you can handle it. I know God is an all-miracle God, and I know that you have faith. So do I. But there are things that God has given you wisdom to be able to handle that God is not going to do for you. Even as you're about to go to church right now, or tomorrow, I'm sure tomorrow is Sunday. I'm recording this video. It's a Saturday, and tomorrow is going to be Sunday. Tomorrow you are going to go to church. Learn to budget on even your offering, your tithe, and whatever you want to give to the church. Learn to draw a budget on that. Don't go to church with so much money in your pocket, because sometimes in church we get emotional and we begin to sow seed that we have never planned for. Some people give money in church, and when they get home, they begin to call people to help them out. Sometimes how to get transportation back home is a problem. So learn to be financially disciplined. Finally, let me talk about this. You also need to know the difference between good debt and bad debt. When you have to borrow money, if it is absolutely necessary, make sure that you borrow the money and invest it into something that is going to generate income for you to offset the debt and later have more assets to yourself. So if you have to borrow money to build a house, then why don't you build a hostel facility, or borrow money and put it into a building where you rent it out, or you let it so that the interests that are coming from them can also help you to offset the debt. Instead of borrowing money to put up your own building, that it will cost you entire working years to put up that building. And by the time you move into that building, you are in pension and you're almost about to die. You wouldn't have lived any life. You have put your family into a lot of suffering. So what do you have to do? If you have to borrow money to buy a car, make sure that you use the car for something that is going to generate more income. If you are into sales, marketing, that is awesome. But if you have to borrow money to buy a car and have a lot of loan to pay, then you have a problem. So if you buy a car, there's nothing wrong with buying a car, but make sure that that car is generating income for you, or you are using it for something that is profitable, and that car is helping you to make more money than you used to make. And the help of that car is going to help you to offset the debt. So when you borrow money and spend on perishable things, buy television sets, buy gadgets, wardrobe, like perishable things that are irrelevant, things that depreciate with time, that is a bad debt. But if you borrow money and invest it into things that will bring you profits in the long run, that is a good debt. If you borrow money and invest it into things that will get you profit, so that profit will be used to offset the loan, and once you've finished offsetting the loan, you still have money for yourself, then that is a good debt. Ladies and gentlemen, if you can follow these simple principles, I can assure you there's no way you are going to be in debt. My name is Selom Aboji. If you like this kind of content, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And I assure you, I'm going to give you more of such tips on how to help yourself through this life. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. You are going to meet the next time.